The Galactic Survey Corps vessel Pathfinder hung in orbit above the world designated XR7. Its sensors collecting data that made the crew exchange concerned glances. "These readings can't be correct," muttered Commander Voss, tapping the display with a slender blue finger. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of extreme skepticism among the Melmorians. "Run the atmospheric scan again." Lieutenant Reed nodded, her silver skin reflecting the console lights as she recalibrated the sensors. "Scan complete, Commander. Results unchanged." Voss leaned closer to the screen, mandibles clicking in concern. The numbers weren't just bad, they were impossible. Atmospheric pressure at 4.2 times galactic standard. Surface temperatures swinging between -120 degrees Celsius at night to 85 degrees Celsius during day. Clouds of sulfuric acid that produced rain capable of dissolving standard protection gear. And the radiation levels. Those alone would kill most species within hours. "Classification?" asked Captain Telix from her command chair. Voss straightened, his exoskeleton creaking slightly. "Classification 9, Captain. Uninhabitable by any known sentient standards." A murmur ran through the bridge crew. Classification 9 worlds were rare, planets so hostile that even the most advanced species in the galaxy couldn't establish permanent settlements. Such worlds were typically only visited by automated mining drones designed to extract valuable resources before breaking down. "Shame," said Telix, her tentacles curling in disappointment. The mineral readings suggested potential for rare earth elements. "Mark it for drone extraction and prepare to move on." "Wait." This came from Ensign Drav at the sensor station. The young Prolian's fur bristled with excitement. "I'm detecting an energy signature on the surface." Voss moved to the station, checking the readings himself. "That's impossible. Nothing mechanical could function in those conditions for long." "The signature is artificial," insisted Drav. "Crude by our standards, but definitely technology. And it's been active for some time based on the decay patterns in the surrounding soil." Captain Telix joined them, her massive form towering over the console. "Location? Northern Hemisphere. A valley region between mountain ranges," replied Drav. "The signature appears to be some kind of shield generator." Voss studied the topographic display. The valley sat in a unique position, protected from the worst wind patterns by the mountains, with an underground water source that wouldn't be as acidic as the surface water. "Someone's down there," Voss said finally. "Someone alive." Captain Telix's expression hardened. "Impossible or not, we need to investigate. Prepare a landing team with Class X environmental suits. Full quarantine protocols." 2 hours later, Voss led the team down in a shuttle designed to withstand extreme conditions. The descent was brutal. Violent winds buffeted the craft while acid rain created a deafening drumbeat against the hull. "Landing zone ahead," announced the pilot. "Energy signature is stronger now. Definitely artificial." Through the viewport, Voss could see a small clearing beneath them. As they broke through the lower cloud layer, something unexpected came into view. A structure. Not the gleaming metals or perfect geometric shapes of advanced civilizations, but something crude yet effective. A compound built from what appeared to be salvaged materials and local stone. "By the void," whispered Reeb beside him. "Someone built that. Here." As the shuttle touched down, the team suited up. Voss checked everyone's seals twice before opening the door. The howling wind and acid rain greeted them, but through the storm, something else caught their attention. A figure approaching the shuttle. A bipedal figure, walking confidently through what should have been a lethal environment, wearing what looked like a patchwork of materials that couldn't possibly provide adequate protection. "Impossible," Voss said, the word becoming something of a mantra for this mission. The figure raised a hand in greeting, and through the faceplate of a remarkably simple breathing apparatus, Voss saw something that defied all logic. A smiling human face. The human approached without fear, walking with the easy confidence of someone strolling through a park rather than a deadly environment that should have killed him instantly. Commander Voss and his team stood frozen, their advanced environmental suits humming and adjusting frantically to protect them from conditions their wearer considered unsurvivable. "Hello there," the human called out, his voice crackling through a simple communication device attached to his mask. "Don't get many visitors. Welcome to my humble abode." He gestured toward the compound behind him. The alien team exchanged bewildered glances. Their universal translators worked perfectly, but the casual greeting in such circumstances left them speechless. Finally, Voss stepped forward. "I am Commander Voss of the Galactic Survey Corps. How are you?" "Alive." The question escaped before diplomacy could intervene. The human laughed, the sound strange and musical to alien ears. "I'm Jack Miller. As for being alive, that's what humans do best." He tapped his chest proudly. "5 years since my ship crashed. Come on in before your fancy suits get eaten through." Jack turned and headed toward the compound. After a moment's hesitation, Voss signaled his team to follow. The structure was more impressive up close, a combination of salvaged spacecraft parts and local materials forming a sealed habitat. Jack led them through an airlock system that, while primitive by galactic standards, was remarkably effective. Inside, the air was clean, temperature moderate, and radiation levels minimal. "You can remove those suits if you want," Jack said, pulling off his own breathing apparatus to reveal a weathered face with bright eyes and a thick beard. "Air's clean in here." Lieutenant Reed checked her instruments. "He's right, Commander. Atmosphere is adjusted to near-standard conditions." One by one, the team cautiously removed their helmets. Jack watched with obvious fascination at the variety of alien features revealed. "Wow, a real alien delegation. I offer you coffee, but I'm not sure about cross-species compatibility." Jack grinned. "What brings the Galactic Survey Corps to my little corner of hell?" Voss, still struggling to process what he was seeing, answered mechanically. "We detected your energy signature during our planetary survey. XR7 is classified as uninhabitable." Jack snorted. "Tell me about it." "First month was rough." He gestured around the room. "But humans are stubborn. We adapt." "Your species is classified as Type II," said Ensign Drav, fur still bristling with excitement. "Technological development insufficient for interstellar survival without assistance. Yet you've survived where even Type I species would perish." Jack shrugged. "Your classification system might need updating." Captain Telex's voice crackled over Voss's communicator. "Commander, report." "Captain, we've made contact with a human survivor. He's constructed a sustainable habitat and has been surviving for 5 years." Voss couldn't keep the disbelief from his voice. "Impossible," came the reply, the word that had become the mission's theme. Jack smiled at this. "Your captain sounds skeptical." "Can't blame her. I didn't think I'd make it either, those first few weeks." "How?" Voss finally asked. "Our scientific models give this planet a habitability index of 0. Jack moved to a makeshift table and spread out hand-drawn maps and diagrams. "Your models assume fixed conditions. This planet has patterns, cycles. The acid rain follows seasonal weather systems. The radiation spikes during certain orbital positions." He pointed to markings on his maps. "Learn the patterns, work with them instead of against them. And suddenly, uninhabitable becomes challenging but manageable." The team gathered around the table, scientists and explorers drawn to knowledge that defied their understanding. Voss studied not just the maps but the human himself, a being who, according to everything they knew, should not be alive. "Would you show us how you've done this?" asked Reed, genuine curiosity in her voice. Jack's face lit up with the first real human smile many of them had ever seen. "I'd be delighted to give you the tour. Fair warning, though, it might change how you see the universe." Voss felt something shift in his understanding of what was possible. "I believe, Mr. Miller, that process has already begun." Jack led the alien team through his compound with the pride of a museum curator showing off rare treasures. In truth, each room contained innovations that defied the visitors' understanding of survival science. "This is my water processing center," Jack explained, gesturing to an arrangement of salvaged pipes, filters, and containers. "The groundwater here is less acidic than the rain, but still toxic. These sediment layers strip out the heavy metals. Then I run it through these bacterial filters I cultivated from soil samples." Commander Voss studied the system with 4 blinking eyes. "Our analysis indicated all water sources would be undrinkable without molecular reconstruction technology." Jack tapped a clear container of water. "Taste it." Voss hesitated, his mandibles clicking nervously. "It's safe for most carbon-based life," Jack assured him. "I've tested it extensively." Lieutenant Reed stepped forward and used a small device to analyze the water. She looked at the results in disbelief. "It's pure, cleaner than standard ship water." "Nature already built perfect filtration systems," Jack said. "I just copied them." The tour continued to a large room filled with plants growing under modified lighting panels. The air was humid and rich with oxygen. "My greenhouse," Jack announced. "These plants are from Earth, but I've helped them adapt to local conditions. They provide my food, oxygen, and mental health support." Never underestimate how important it is to see green things growing when you're alone on a death world. Ensign Drav's fur rippled with excitement. "You modified Earth plants to survive local light conditions, without genetic engineering equipment." "Selective breeding," Jack corrected. "I planted thousands of seeds and kept the ones that thrived. After 15 generations, they adapted. Life finds a way if you're patient enough to let it." Commander Voss had remained unusually quiet, his scientist's mind struggling to reconcile what he was seeing with what he knew should be possible. "Our simulations predicted 100% mortality for any biological entity attempting long-term habitation." Jack laughed. "Your simulations didn't account for human stubbornness. Come see the best part." He led them up a ladder to the roof of the compound. Despite the howling winds and occasional spatters of acid rain, a series of devices spun and hummed, collecting energy. "My power system," Jack explained. "Those winds that try to tear everything apart. They power my turbines. The acid rain. It creates amazing electrical currents when channeled properly. Even the temperature swings generate power through thermal differentials." The aliens stared at the collection of devices, some scavenged from ship parts, others clearly built from scratch using local materials. "You're not fighting the planet," Reed said slowly, understanding dawning. "You're working with it." "Exactly." Jack beamed at her. "That's the human approach. Your people look at a world and ask, can we live here as we are? If not, you either terraform it or leave. Humans ask, how can we adapt to live here? Different question, different answer." Voss moved closer to Jack, studying him with newfound respect. "In the Galactic Survey Corps, we classify worlds based on universal habitability standards. We've never encountered a species that could thrive in conditions so far outside those parameters." Jack shrugged. "Humans evolved on a planet with wildly different environments. Freezing poles, burning deserts, oxygen-thin mountains, pressure-crushing ocean depths. We've always had to adapt or die." He pointed to the horizon, where acid clouds created an eerily beautiful sunset of purples and greens. "Look at that. Most would see deadly atmosphere. I see the most incredible sunset in the galaxy." Voss followed Jack's gaze, seeing the deadly world through human eyes for the first time. "Your species adapts environments to yourselves," he recited from training manuals. Jack shook his head. "No. Your species adapts environments to yourselves. Humans adapt themselves to environments. That's why I'm alive when your science said I should be dead." The alien scientist stood silently, watching the impossible sunset with the impossible human, feeling the foundations of his understanding begin to shift. The next 3 days passed in a blur of discovery and revelation. Commander Voss had requested and received permission from Captain Telex to establish a temporary research outpost beside Jack's compound. The science team worked around the clock, documenting the human survival methods, while sharing information about the wider galaxy in return. "So you're telling me," Jack said as he helped Reed calibrate a sensor array, "that there are over 500 known sentient species out there, and not one has settled on a world as harsh as this." Reed's silver skin rippled in the equivalent of a head shake. The Galactic Council established habitat classifications based on biological tolerances. Even the hardiest species require certain environmental constants. Yet here I am, Jack mused, tightening a bolt with a wrench he'd made from ship scrap, one stubborn human refusing to die. Across the room, Ensign Drab was analyzing Jack's water filtration system. "The bacterial cultures are simple but remarkably effective," he reported, fur bristling with excitement. "They've evolved to process compounds that would be toxic to most life forms. I've never seen adaptation this rapid." Jack grinned. "Those bacteria and I have something in common. We're both too stubborn to know when we're beaten." Commander Voss entered, carrying a data tablet. For days he'd been sending reports to the Survey Corps headquarters, each one more detailed than the last. "Mr. Miller, would you be willing to demonstrate your weather prediction method again? The Council scientists are skeptical. They think I'm a fraud," Jack asked, not sounding particularly offended. "They think we may be suffering from environmental hallucinations," Voss admitted. "A human surviving alone for 5 years on a Classification 9 world challenges fundamental principles of xenobiology." Jack laughed. "I'm happy to break your science if it means I get to talk to someone after 5 years of solitude. Let's set up the demonstration." Outside, under the protection of a portable shield generator, Jack showed them how he read the planet's deadly weather. He pointed out cloud formations, wind patterns, and subtle color changes in the atmosphere that indicated coming storms or periods of relative calm. "The acid rain follows a 14-day cycle, influenced by the larger moon," he explained. "The radiation spikes when that moon is at apogee, but the mountains provide natural shielding if you track the patterns." Voss recorded everything, his scientific mind both troubled and thrilled by what he was learning. "You've accomplished this without advanced technology or training in planetology." "Necessity is one hell of a teacher," Jack replied. "When your choices are adapt or die, you get creative fast." In the evenings, Jack eagerly absorbed everything the aliens could tell him about galactic civilization. Reed showed him star charts, explaining the Alliance territories and trade routes. Drav taught him about the different species and their unique biologies. Voss explained the technology that powered their ships and equipment. "It's fascinating," Jack said on the third night as they shared a meal in his compound. "Your civilization has achieved incredible things, yet you're limited by your own expectations of what's possible." "How so?" asked Voss, genuinely curious. "You have the technology to transform worlds to suit yourselves, but you never considered transforming yourselves to suit worlds," Jack explained. "Humans have always done both. Your perspective challenges thousands of years of established science," Voss said. "The Galactic Survey Corps classifies worlds based on objective habitability criteria. Nothing is objective when life is involved," Jack responded. "Life adapts. That's what it does." Reed, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke. "It's more than just physical adaptation, isn't it? It's also mental." Jack nodded appreciatively. "Exactly. Half of survival is believing you can survive. Your criteria say this planet will kill you, so no one even tries. I didn't have that luxury. I had to believe I could make it work." Voss considered this philosophical difference. His people viewed the universe as something to be understood through consistent laws and patterns. This human saw it as something to be engaged with, challenged, and even defied. "I must update my report to the Council," Voss said finally. "This isn't merely about reclassifying one planet. Your existence here challenges our entire approach to habitability." Jack raised his cup of purified water in a toast to challenging assumptions. "It's the most human thing there is." The sleek diplomatic vessel that entered XR7's orbit dwarfed the Pathfinder *. Its polished hull glinted in the harsh light of the system's star, broadcasting authority and power. Commander Voss stood at attention as the communication screen flickered to life, revealing the stern face of Admiral Krell. "Commander," the Admiral began without preamble, his crest of sensory appendages rigid with disapproval. "Your reports have caused quite a disturbance within the Council." Voss maintained his professional demeanor. "I've reported only what we've observed, Admiral. You claim a solitary human has survived for 5 years on a Classification 9 world using primitive technology." Admiral Krell's voice dripped with skepticism. "Do you understand how absurd this sounds?" "I understand it defies our established knowledge," Voss replied carefully. "But the evidence is irrefutable." The Admiral's eyes narrowed. "Evidence can be misinterpreted, Commander. The Council suspects either a sophisticated deception or serious equipment malfunctions affecting your team's judgment." Captain Telix, standing beside Voss, spoke up. "With respect, Admiral, my ship's systems are functioning perfectly. We've run multiple diagnostics." "Nevertheless," Krell continued, "I have been dispatched with a verification team to assess the situation personally. Prepare for our arrival." When the transmission ended, Voss turned to Telix. "This could be problematic." "Krell has a reputation for rigid adherence to established doctrine," Telix agreed. "He won't easily accept evidence that contradicts the Council's classification system." Reed, who had been listening nearby, asked, "Should we warn Jack?" Voss nodded. "Yes, and pray he understands what's at stake." Down on the surface, Jack took the news with unexpected calm. "So the big bosses don't believe I exist." He chuckled while adjusting his greenhouse irrigation system. "Can't say I blame them. Some days I don't believe it either." "Admiral Krell isn't coming to verify your existence," Voss explained. "He's coming to disprove it. The Admiral has built his career on the precision of the habitability classification system." Jack wiped his hands on a rag. "And I'm a walking contradiction to his life's work. No wonder he's unhappy." "This is serious," Reed insisted. "If Krell declares this a hoax or a misunderstanding, the Council will withdraw our research team. You'll be alone again." Jack's expression softened at her concern. "I survived before you arrived. I'll survive after you leave." "It's more than that," Voss said. "Your methods could revolutionize how we approach hostile environments throughout the galaxy. Worlds previously deemed worthless could become valuable. Species could expand beyond their current limitations." "Well, when you put it that way," Jack scratched his beard thoughtfully. "What do we need to do?" Before they could form a plan, alarms blared from their equipment. Drav burst into the greenhouse, his fur standing straight up in alarm. "Massive storm front approaching. Nothing like we've seen before." They rushed to the monitoring station. The atmospheric readings were off the charts. Acid concentrations triple the normal levels, wind speeds approaching 300 kilometers per hour, and radiation spikes that would overwhelm standard shielding. "The Admiral's shuttle just entered the atmosphere," Reed reported anxiously. "They're heading right into it." On the screens, they watched as the diplomatic shuttle struggled against the sudden storm. Its advanced engines fought the winds while shields flared against acid bombardment. "Their shields are failing," Voss observed with growing horror. "They won't make it to the surface intact." Jack was already moving, grabbing equipment. "What's their trajectory? Can they alter course to the eastern ridge?" Drav calculated quickly. "Possibly, but tell them to aim for these coordinates." Jack pointed to a spot on the map. "I can reach them from there with the terrain vehicle." "That storm will kill you before you get halfway," Reed protested. Jack was already suiting up in his patchwork environmental gear. "Nobody dies on my planet today." He gave them a crooked smile. "Besides, nothing convinces people like saving their lives." As Jack headed for the airlock, Voss realized they were about to witness either a heroic rescue or the proof that even human adaptability had its limits. The storm howled with unnatural fury as Jack guided his makeshift vehicle across the hostile landscape. The machine, cobbled together from crashed ship parts and indigenous materials, lurched and bounced over the uneven terrain. Acid rain pounded against the reinforced canopy, creating an eerie symphony of hisses and pings. Eastern Ridge approaching, Jack muttered to himself, squinting through the specialized viewplate he'd developed specifically for XR7's unique atmospheric conditions, where normal vision would show only swirling death. Jack saw patterns, currents in the chaos that he'd learned to navigate during his years of isolation. The comm unit crackled. "Miller, this is Commander Voss. The diplomatic shuttle has made an emergency landing at the coordinates. Their shields are failing completely." "I see them," Jack confirmed, spotting the sleek vessel nestled precariously on a rocky outcropping. Even from a distance, he could see the acid rain eating through the shuttle's hull. Advanced as it was, the vessel hadn't been designed for sustained exposure to XR7's extreme conditions. Jack parked his vehicle beside the damaged shuttle and sealed his makeshift environment suit. It wasn't pretty. Layers of treated animal hide from native creatures, sealed with resins extracted from certain mineral deposits, topped with a helmet fashioned from his original crashed ship's viewport. Yet it worked where the aliens' advanced technology was failing. The shuttle's airlock hissed open. 4 figures in rapidly deteriorating environmental suits stumbled out, led by a tall, imposing alien whose ornate uniform marked him as Admiral Krell. "Get in. Now," Jack shouted over the howling wind, gesturing to his vehicle. The Admiral hesitated, staring at Jack's crude protective gear with obvious disdain. "Your suits will dissolve in about 3 minutes," Jack yelled. "Mine won't. Your choice." That got them moving. The 4 aliens crammed into Jack's vehicle, their expressions a mixture of fear, confusion, and in the Admiral's case, stubborn pride. "This contraption will protect us?" Krell asked, his translator struggling with the wind noise. "Better than your fancy suits," Jack replied, slamming the door shut and engaging a series of manual locks. "Welcome to XR7, Admiral. I hear you don't believe I exist." Krell's sensory appendages twitched with irritation. "I believe you exist. I question how." "You'll get a first-hand demonstration," Jack said grimly, checking the external sensors he built from scavenged parts. "This storm's worse than I expected. We can't make it back to my compound." "What does that mean?" demanded one of Krell's scientists, panic edging into her voice. "It means," Jack explained calmly, "we're taking a detour to my emergency shelter, and you're about to get a crash course in human survival techniques." He guided the vehicle into what appeared to be a narrow crevice in the rock face. The passage twisted downward, eventually opening into a small cave system naturally shielded from the worst of the planet's radiation. "Everybody out," Jack ordered once they'd reached the deepest chamber. "Your suits are compromised. Remove them before the acid eats through to your skin." The aliens reluctantly shed their dissolving protection gear. Admiral Krell looked particularly uncomfortable, his dignified demeanor crumbling as he stood exposed in the dim cave. "What now, human?" he asked stiffly. "We wait to die slowly instead of quickly." Jack smiled as he removed his own helmet. "No, Admiral. Now I teach you how to survive." Over the next several hours, Jack demonstrated the techniques that had kept him alive for 5 years. He showed them how to test the cave atmosphere for toxic elements, how to locate the underground water source that wasn't contaminated by surface acids, and how to identify which local minerals could neutralize the caustic compounds that had breached their suits. "The first rule of survival on XR7, Jack explained, as he treated a chemical burn on one scientist's arm using a paste made from crushed cave crystals, is understanding that everything trying to kill you can also help you live, if you approach it correctly. Admiral Krell watched intently as the burn visibly healed under Jack's ministrations. His skepticism was gradually giving way to reluctant fascination. "Our most advanced medical technology couldn't neutralize these compounds," he admitted. "How did you discover this?" Jack shrugged. "Trial and error. Lots of error, at first. Humans have been figuring out how to survive in hostile environments since we climbed down from the trees. It's kind of our specialty." Outside, the storm raged on, trapping the unlikely group together in the small cave, a human teaching some of the galaxy's most advanced beings how to survive using nothing but observation, ingenuity, and stubborn determination. 3 weeks after the storm, Jack stood on the ridge overlooking his valley. The harsh winds of XR7 tugged at his clothes, but he barely noticed anymore. Below, a flurry of activity transformed the landscape as ships came and went, bringing supplies and people, human people. "Quite a change from when I found you," Commander Voss observed, joining Jack at his lookout point. The alien's environmental suit was now a hybrid design, standard galactic survey core technology modified with several of Jack's innovations. Jack nodded. From sole survivor to colony founder in under a month. Not bad for a planet classified as uninhabitable. About that classification, Voss said, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence, a sign Jack had learned indicated amusement. The council session was quite dramatic. Jack grinned. "I wish I could have seen Admiral Krell defending a human to the Galactic Council." "He was remarkably persuasive," Voss replied. "After our rescue, his entire perspective shifted. He told the council that surviving in that cave with you taught him more about adaptation than 40 years in the Survey Corps." Below them, the first prefabricated habitat units were being assembled by teams of humans wearing modified protection gear based on Jack's designs. Earth had responded enthusiastically to the discovery that humans could thrive on worlds the galactic community had written off as worthless. "So what's the official new classification?" Jack asked. "That's the most significant change," Voss explained. "For the first time in 3,000 years, the habitability scale has been revised. Planets like XR7 are now classified as human-viable environments, a whole new category." Jack laughed. "I can already imagine the real estate advertisements. Lovely acid rain views, minimal radiation during crescent moon phases, only occasional atmospheric toxicity." A shuttle descended toward the new landing pad. This one bore the markings of Earth's recently established Galactic Affairs Office. "Your new assignment arrives," Voss noted. Jack nodded, his expression becoming more serious. "Ambassador to extreme environments. Still can't believe they created a position just for me." "It makes perfect sense," Voss countered. "There are 17 worlds in charted space with similar conditions to XR7. Worlds rich in resources that every spacefaring species dismissed as unusable. Your people can access what no one else can." Jack watched as the shuttle landed and a small delegation emerged. "It's more than resources, though. It's about perspective. Humans look at a deadly world and see possibilities. That's valuable to the galaxy in ways beyond mining rights." Voss placed a 4-fingered hand on Jack's shoulder, a gesture he'd adopted from humans. "The Council agrees. That's why they've approved the Joint Research Initiative. My team will remain to document how your colony develops." "Planning to write a paper on human stubbornness?" Jack teased. "Several papers. Actually," Voss replied seriously. "Your survival methods have applications for emergency protocols across all species. Admiral Krell is already implementing training programs based on what he learned in that cave." The delegation from Earth approached, led by a woman whose confident stride marked her as a diplomat. "Ambassador Miller," she called out. "The Secretary General sends his regards. We have 17 habitat proposals for your review." Jack smiled at Voss. "Duty calls." Before heading down the ridge, he took one last look at the valley, at the compound he built with his bare hands, now the center of a growing settlement. Through the swirling toxic clouds, the system's star created a spectacular sunset that painted the deadly atmosphere in breathtaking hues of purple and gold. "Beautiful, isn't it?" he asked Voss. The alien scientist studied the poisonous skyline thoughtfully. "I'm beginning to see it through your eyes," he admitted. "Perhaps that's the most valuable thing humans bring to the galaxy, not just your ability to survive, but your capacity to find beauty in the most hostile environments." Jack nodded. "Adaptation isn't just about staying alive. It's about making life worth living. no matter where you are. As they descended toward the bustling new colony, ships continued to arrive in orbit. Vessels from Earth bringing more humans, eager to test themselves against worlds the galaxy had deemed impossible. HFY was just the beginning. Across the stars, planets classified as uninhabitable awaited the species that refused to accept the limitations others placed on them.